Hi everybody, welcome back to Jenkins Boat Works. I am Chuck Jenkins. In this episode we're going to continue working on the Chesapeake 18. This is a kit we got from Chesapeake Lightcraft and we are nearing completion. We've got an extremely exciting episode this time, some really good information because we're going to do something that just doesn't come with the kit. You may remember that we are building this kayak for a specific purpose. I've got a friend named Rusty who is going to use this kayak to do the MR 340. That is the Missouri River race from Caw Point, where the Kansas River comes into the Missouri at Kansas City, all the way to St. Charles over by St. Louis. So 340 miles. This is a grueling, long endurance test. So part of the reason we're doing an 18-foot kayak is because the longer our hull, the more we should have better hull speed and also maybe track a little straighter. But even so, we've decided that putting a rudder on this makes a lot of sense. Now, the Chesapeake 18 doesn't normally just come with a rudder, so we have had to figure out how to modify this just a little bit and add one on. I think if you had ever wanted to put a rudder on a wood kayak, that we may have some really good information in this video, and part of what we do could certainly be adapted for any number of models of kayak, especially wood kayaks. We are going to use a Smart Track rudder, so we're using a commercially produced piece of equipment, but how we attach it on here is of our own doing. So I'm really pleased with the way it's coming. You're going to get to see kind of my thought process and the ideas that I've got going into this, so hopefully this will work as efficiently as possible. So we're glad you're here. If you're new to our channel, would you consider subscribing? We got tons of boat building video on multiple projects that we've been doing over the years. So anyway, I did make a playlist for this particular build. I believe we're either episode 9 or 10, and there'll be a link at the end of the video if you want to watch other videos in this build series. So anyway, we're glad you're here. Let's jump in and see how we're going to put this rudder on. Let's talk about the rudder for a minute. We put this extra piece of oak back here on the stern because the rudder that we have is this Smart Track, and it's got this pin, and you see it's got some holes there that could accept like a cotter pin. So when I very first started looking at this, I thought about just drilling a hole just straight down in the back of the stern, but it would have been so close to the back here, and this is so narrow back here as far as like this, that I was afraid that if I drilled a hole in here, I might come through the side, because this pin is pretty healthy. And I thought, it's just not worth doing that. Plus there would have been no way to put a cotter pin in it. It would have just been sticking down in there, so we would have needed to secure the top down in some way to keep it from being able to pop out of there. So I cut this piece of white oak, and put it on there, and it's epoxied on there very well, and it's screwed on there, and you can see it's got a lot more width to it. So now I can just drill a hole in this dude, drop that down in there, and see we'll be able to have it back here. It won't be hindered by anything, and we'll be able to put a cotter pin through that pin. And so then here's the whole rudder, and it's got a kick-up feature, and we'll look at more of that later. Now I'm thinking, okay, we got the foot pedals in, up in the cockpit, and we did that before we put the deck on. You may be able to see those in there. And they got these cables that are on there. Now that I've cut this hole for the after hatch, I'm going to be able to drill 2 small holes in the bulkhead. So those cables will come back from the pedals, come back through the cockpit on the side, and through the bulkhead here. Then they run all the way back and will come up through the deck, and then they'll attach to the pivot point on the rudder. Now I'm making these little pieces of mahogany right here, so I got some kind of way for these to exit the deck without just drilling a hole straight through here. Give us a little bit of an angle. And I just thought of this. There's no plan for it. These are probably 2.5 inches long, maybe 3/4 of an inch tall at this point. And I just kind of thought about what kind of angle do I want. I want that wire to be able to come up back from underneath the deck and come out through the deck and then come back here to where it attaches on the rudder. Okay, so I'm continuing to work on how we're going to get the rudder mounted here on the stern. And I had bought this aquarium tube, air hose for an aquarium, and my thinking is I'm going to run it through these little pieces of mahogany. We got these epoxied down on the deck, and so now I need to drill a hole. And the reason I put these on here is because I didn't just want this tube coming straight up through the deck. It needs to come pretty, at least kind of straight coming back toward here so that the cables don't get kinked. Anyway, now my next thing is I drilled some pilot holes, but I want to drill a hole that will allow me to run this through these and down under the deck. My wife fell in love with this little tool at the hardware store, and she ended up buying it for me. And I can't tell you how many times I've used it. It's just a little gauge to tell you how big a bolt is, or just any number of things. It's got metric and imperial. And so I need to know how big a hole to drill in here for this tube to go in there. And I thought, well, I wonder if it's a standard size. So I come along here and 1/4 inch. That's what it looks like it should be. Look at that. Fit right in that hole. So if you got some loose drill bits laying around, you don't know what size they are. I do happen to know this is a 1/4 inch. Put it in there, 1/4 inch. You're right. So I'm going to start out with a 1/4 inch hole in here because I do want this hose to be pretty tight in here. And we'll drill these out and see if we can get this hose to go through here down underneath the deck. And we're going to run it all the way up underneath there and through that bulkhead right behind the cockpit. Should we ever have to replace the cables for this, it would make it relatively easy because then we'll just thread them through this tubing. So I'm in hopes that's going to work. Let's drill some holes. Once again, my favorite thing to do, drill holes in boats. I use this real sharp, pointy little countersink bit when I put a couple of holes in here to start out with, so I didn't dance around. But now that I've got those in there, and I did actually run through the deck, I could feel it. Now I'm just going to go ahead and try to get these big enough to run this tube in. How about that? I don't know if we'll need to take that up a 30-second or something to get that tube to go in there or not. Let's try it. Oh, that's going to go in there. That's great. And the only other thing is going to be reaching in through that hatch and getting a hold of this. Here's something else we're going to need to do is drill this hole in here for this pin to go in. And once again, I'm going to be able to use this tool, I think. See if we can figure out what this is. Well, 3/8. I hit it right on the nose first try. Okay, so I know I'm going to need a 3/8 hole coming down in here. Cool. Let's see if we can grab this tube from inside that hatch. I can stand some light. Oh my golly, look at that, I got it. Ha! How about that? We're just going to run that. I'll put some little clips up on the inside of here just to hold this tubing up. And then we'll drill a hole through the bulkhead here and then be able to run our cable all the way back through there. Well, that's going to be great. Let's give ourselves a little extra. Fantastic. Okay, let's go ahead and put a hole in here. I'm just going to, you know what, I need to know how far back that is. Just needs to be right like that. Let's mark that. I'll get something and measure here and make sure that's in the middle. Well, it's about 2.5, and my mark is right at 1.25, so it's right in the middle. We're about 1 inch back from the very end. And this has got a distance here of about 1.25 inches, so we should have 1/4 inch. Yeah, that's going to be good. Again, I'm drilling a pilot hole with the real sharp, pointy part of this before I go putting the 3/8 in there. Now this is oak. This may be a little tricky. Burning. I want to make sure I'm straight up and down too. It looks pretty good. Let's switch over to that bigger bit. Make sure I'm straight up and down. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Whoa. Very funny. How about that? good shape. We may over drill that just a little bit because we certainly want this to swing freely on here. Haha, look at that. Yeah, that's going to be huge. Very good. Very good. Okay, so we got holes drilled in the bulkhead, and these tubes have gone all the way through here. We'll get some little clips and put them on the shear clamp inside there to keep them from moving around. I've got one of the cables untangled, and I'm going to try to run it through this tube. So let's see how that goes. That's threading easier than the other one did. Pray it's long enough. Yeah, it just does not like it when it's bent, does it? There we go. How about that? See, that'll just attach onto there. These are the foot pedals. They were pretty hard to see when we tried to look at them before. It's still pretty dark in there. But now you can see that the wire, the cable comes back along the edge there and then meets that aquarium tube. And we've got a little plastic clip in there. Goes through the bulkhead there and then continues on back there. So I got two more little clips in there. Now this is on both sides. That's port side. And then where it exits out of these little pieces of mahogany, we've got it tied down too. These little clips, I just got these at Lowe's. I think I got 10 of them in a bag for $1. I wish they weren't white, but at the same time, I don't mind if they're kind of visual. Don't want anybody getting tangled up in these wires or... Anyway, so then we put the rest of the hardware together on the ends here. These little clips they call CRWs, those little stainless steel clips, and just some cotter pins, and I didn't do any video on how to put that together. The instructions from Smart Track are really very good. It's got a couple of little heat shrink deals that will slide over both wires once we get it adjusted. At this point it's not adjusted. I'm going to need Rusty to sit in here, see if the foot pedals are where we need them to be, and but all in all, man, that's awesome. So we still have to fix the kick up part of this too. There's a line that attaches down here on this hole, comes up over the back, up through the top, and then through here, and can run all the way forward with a cleat up there that you can tie off. And then the idea is you can pull the rudder up if you need to. Cool stuff. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.